Yeah.
Yeah, hi, I'm Rob Sanders. I'm the publisher of Greystone Books. Been publishing for 35 years, or roughly 35 years. So every book, every manuscript we take in, we look at both for the subject and the treatment of that subject. And because of the kinds of books I publish, which some of them can be, advocacy books and books that are actually supporting and proposing or promoting a particular view, we expect strong arguments and statements very often. Because we publish David Suzuki, you know what he does and says, so we have to we look at everything that he says very, very carefully. Although he's pretty careful, we're always concerned about breaking any laws. That's what we're concerned about breaking any laws. So we have editors who work on every book, and every editor that works on a book has experience and some training in identifying statements in a book or statements in a book that could be libelous or offensive. And if we find them, then we point them out to the author, and the author will generally remove them. And if the author doesn't remove them, then we can either not publish the book or work out. I mean, we often will suggest different things they can do. So that's the position we'll take if there's something that is against the law. And we also have lawyers that will look at them if we identify areas, and we'll have a libel lawyer take a look at something and help us understand whether the book could be problematic or not. Well, I think there's taboos that the public has a lot of difficulty with. And some of them you can talk about, and it's not illegal, and it's not against any laws. I'm not too worried about that because while the author of a book that discusses a taboo, let's say there's a book on incest, a book that discusses incest in a very lurid kind of way. Well, that could be pretty offensive, and it might turn a lot of people off. But it doesn't have to be illegal. And every author and every writer and every publisher who's publishing a writer has a right to speak and a right to be heard, and people who have the right not to listen as well. It's again, I come back to the point that if it's legal, it should be fair game, even if it's a taboo, if it's a problem for people. First of all, I'm going to reiterate time and time again, we try not to break the law. We really do go out of our way to not break the law. And I also believe that there are ways to make a point in a much stronger way than having to go out and break the law. So far, we've been successful at that. So if we've inadvertently missed something, or if somebody interprets something one way and brings a suit against us, and a court decides or a jury decides that they were right and we were wrong, well, we suffer the consequences. The author or we or both suffer the consequences, and we generally have to either pay a fine or make up in whatever way the court decides. We do have insurance for that, and we pay a hefty premium for having what we call libel insurance, which will protect us and authors if from those consequences, as long as we've done the things we should do, as long as we're professional doing the things we should do to ensure that we've made every effort. I'm a bit of a fan of WikiLeaks, actually. I think, and I don't think that a government should have a right to shut them down if they're operating within the law. If the government wants to change the law, well, that's what a society does. But no, I don't think that as long as they're operating within the law. I would say the same thing of WikiLeaks as I would say is one of our authors, Andrew Nikiforuk, who is angry as hell at the fact that the so-called oil sands in Alberta are causing the degradation, environmental degradation that they're causing. So I wouldn't shut him up, and I wouldn't shut WikiLeaks up. It's one thing to bring a suit against somebody or to go through the courts, but it can be far more insidious to actually come around from the side and try to shut people up. There's many ways for that to happen. A government can deal with a party that's working with an organization and threaten to cut grants or cut something from that organization. They can threaten if WikiLeaks or a book publisher benefits by a granting program, and all of a sudden, and that granting program is related to government, all of a sudden, because of something that was done, the grants become tighter or disappear or dry up. That's the invisible censorship that takes place, and that's something that every society, I think, needs to be really very, very careful about. And that happens a great deal. It's happening a lot in the U.S. right now, throughout parts of the United States, where there are particularly strong views in certain parts of government that are trying to curtail speech on various subjects, and it's a difficult. That's the most difficult thing that publishers have to deal with. We're fairly cautious when we publish something that might have worldwide potential danger, or in the territories where we're going to distribute a book. We often will, if it's really, really potentially controversial and may be seen to be libelous, we will actually ask a lawyer in that country to look at it and to read it from the point of view of the laws there. And we've even done that with the U.S., where we distribute regularly, because the U.S. and Canadian laws are different. It's funny. I did a book years ago. This is a silly little example. It wasn't a hugely important or earth-shaking book, but it was a biography of a hockey player, a great hockey player back in the 60s and 70s, Gordie Howe, and he wouldn't authorize the book, and in fact he didn't want the book really written, but we wanted to. We felt that it was a really important book, and the author who was doing the book had a right to publish and say what he wanted if he did so within the law, and he did. It was a very complimentary book. But because the family was so litigious and sued everybody, in Canada we could actually put his picture on the cover of the book and sell the book. But in the U.S. there was a real danger that we could be sued for using his image without his permission, which we knew we wouldn't get. So we knew we were going to do a lot with the book in the U.S. and in Canada. We wanted the same cover, so we took his face off it and just put the big number 9 on it, which he was known by, and the book sold extremely well that way. And we saved and protected ourselves from a libel suit. So the principle of gaining fair and legal access to information, and to making that information available as long as it does not break any laws, I believe in so deeply. That's what I do. It's why I do it, because lots of people won't. And boy, it's getting to be an extremely difficult time when governments have a lot of power and a lot of different ways to shut up people, and I don't like to see it. I don't like to see it.